Hi guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back to a brand new video. And in today's video, we're talking about the OnePlus 6. I've been using it as my daily driver for around 2 weeks now. And in very simple terms, I'm going to give you a complete update on where I'm up to and what I actually think of this device. So let's get straight to it. Right, so first of all, this is not going to be a complete in-depth review of specifications, etc., stuff like that, because I have done already a review on that. I did an unboxing video before it was released, and I also did a full review after around 5 days, and that has all the specs and stuff like that in it. So if you are interested in that, jump and see that first, and then come back to this one. So on that same vein, it's not going to have many of the specs, etc. It's just going to be a very easy and simple, honest opinion of how I've got on with this phone so far. So if you are looking to still purchase this phone, this might hopefully help you. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the positives, then I'm going to jump on to the negatives, and then I'm going to give my overall conclusion after 2 weeks. I'm also going to be doing another video after a month, maybe 3 months, 6 months, and see how we get on. Obviously, I won't necessarily be using it as my daily driver then, but I will still be keeping an update and still using it every now and again to let you guys know. So first of all, like I said, the pros. This thing is a beast, okay? Snapdragon 845, 8GB of RAM, 128GB of storage on this specific model that I've got. I've got the mirror black one here. Their slogan was the speed you need, and they certainly weren't lying. This is by far the fastest phone I've used to date. No lags, no glitches, no issues, no crashes. Like, this thing is literally just one of the fastest things you will ever use. So if you need a phone for speed, then this is the one you need. Sorry, I couldn't help it. But it is true. If you need a quick phone, then this is incredible. So that hardware combined with the software, which includes Android 8.1, which has just been updated to, with Oxygen OS on top of that. And Oxygen OS is their skin, but it is as close to stock Android as you could possibly get. There's a few tweaks here and there, and OnePlus have stated that they only change things within stock Android if they feel it's going to necessarily benefit the user and not just bloatware and just fancy things thrown in just for effect. And on the whole, I get on with it absolutely fine. The main things that they've changed this year is gaming mode, as an example, which you can switch on if you're a heavy gamer and you're playing certain gaming apps. It'll basically shut off data to other apps so that it keeps your phone running as smoothly as possible. Again, that speed you need comes back to, yeah. It also mutes notifications as well, so again, you're not distracted when you are in the gaming zone. Another feature to the software is gestures. They added it with the 5T a couple of months ago, and they've continued it on here. And it just means that you don't have to have the buttons on the bottom of the screen. It's not taking up any real estate. You don't have the home button, the recent apps, and of course the back button all on the bottom. You just use gestures like you see with the iPhone 10, for example. It's not quite as smooth as the iPhone 10, but it still does a pretty good job. So if you swipe up from the middle, it goes home. If you swipe up from the bottom left or right of the screen, it goes back. And if you swipe up from the bottom and hold, it then opens the recent apps drawer. And that is the one that I think needs a little bit of work. It feels a little bit clunky and not quite as quick and smooth as I would like to see. Going home and going back works brilliantly. So that is the one that I think they need to focus on. Also on the software, I've had 2 updates already since I unboxed it, which is good to see they are constantly on top of it. And they also are one of the only companies to be part of the Android P beta program. So you are going to be getting software updates and the new Android as well a lot quicker than some other devices. Not as quick as the Google Pixel, for example, but you are going to get it quicker than Samsung and LG and companies like that, so that is another good thing. The notch, of course, was a massive talking point in 2018 with most Android smartphones. Everyone was copying Apple, even though Essential did it first, but nevertheless it was a massive faux pas for a lot of people, and people almost refused to buy phones with notches. Now OnePlus have actually added a sort of hide the notch option on their software, and on the whole, believe it or not, even though I wasn't necessarily a notch hater, I was going to give the notch a go. I've actually found myself using the hide the notch option quite a lot more than the notch. So the software does work great, and it keeps the symmetry in mind, or rough symmetry, because we'll get to that in one of the cons in a second. But it just means when you're going on apps like YouTube, for example, you don't have the notch cutting into the screen. When you sort of zoom in, for example, it just zooms to that software bar and not the actual notch. So that makes it feel better for me personally when viewing media, etc. Now, another reason why I'm a massive fan of the OnePlus 6 compared to previous models is design. I think it is a beautiful looking phone. It's obviously made of glass now, and it looks very premium in the hand. It looks very much like ceramic, but it's, of course, because it's glass, it's a lot lighter, but still has a weight to it that it feels premium. It feels very comfortable. This sort of back, similar to the 5T, they've always had this same sort of design language, even dating back to their sort of first models, sort of 5 years ago. They've always had a fairly narrow phone with a rounded edges which fit just really comfortably in the hand. Whether you've got large hands or small hands, it just works for me when you're holding it. And also, weirdly, I've not noticed as many fingerprints as I thought I would, being this reflective glossy glass back. Reflective glossy glass back. Yeah, bit of alliteration there. Don't get me wrong, it is still a bit of a magnet, but like I said, not as bad as I was expecting. Now onto the front in that design, yes, it's not an infinity display like Samsung, for example, which some people would prefer. You know, I personally do like those screens, but there would be other people that wouldn't. So in a way, it's kind of good that they've stuck to their guns and not copied Samsung in that department. So on that display, it is a 6.28-inch screen, and the real estate is great. It feels lovely scrolling through different menus, going on, watching certain media, etc. And while it's only 1080p, and we'll get to that in a second, it's a very bright 1080p screen. It's very vibrant. It's probably one of the best AMOLED 1080p screens on the market. And yes, they could have gone to a Quad HD screen, but to the naked eye, there isn't too much difference. For me personally anyway, you may disagree, and it is a very, very good 1080p screen. We've got two more good points about this before we jump onto some cons and then the conclusion. And the next one is the camera. And as you may have seen on my video, I did a comparison between the OnePlus 6 camera and the OnePlus 5T. I'll leave that linked here if you are interested. Now you will notice from that, there was a lot of pictures that were a step up from the OnePlus 5. Again, without going into too much detail, because you can go and see the more detail on that video. It's a great camera, and yes, it's not the best on the market. If you want the best camera, then you'll go down the lines of the Google Pixel 2, you'll go down the lines of the Samsung S9, the iPhone 10, but they are $300, pounds, whatever, more expensive than this phone. In this price range, it is, in my opinion, and this could be out there, it's the best camera on the market. It is. For this price, it's head and shoulders above anything else in that bracket, in my opinion. Again, see for yourself in that video comparison of cameras there. And also with regards to the camera, they're much talked about slow-mo feature. I've used it, and again, I can say it is a really, really nice option that you can choose to do. Again, in that camera comparison video, I did do some slow-mo videos as well, and you can see that. In terms of the video camera, it's really warm in here. Whew. I'm melting, basically. This is the commitment I'm showing to you guys. If I don't create another video this week, it's because I'm in hospital due to dehydration. But yeah, talking about the video camera, now we've got 4K at 60 frames a second. And the final pro before jumping onto the cons of the OnePlus 6 is, of course, battery life. Now, the same with the OnePlus 5T. They both last really, really well. I'm probably getting around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time at this moment in time. And that, for me, is all I need. Combine that with the dash charging that it comes with, which is another pro, I forgot to mention it, but the charging is probably the fastest on the market. 30 minutes it takes to get 60% battery, and that's a really, really impressive feature, and it makes life so much easier if you're out on the road and you want to jump in and take a quick 30-minute break and charge your phone, and then you're good to go out again. Superb. Right, so now we're going to jump onto the cons before then going on to my overall conclusion about this phone after 2 weeks. One thing I am disappointed about with the OnePlus 6 is that they've not actually introduced a feature that can take away sunburn. And the first one is the speaker. It's pretty poor. Based on what you've seen with other areas of the phone, it's definitely an area that they've sacrificed in order to keep the price down. And while it's not horrendous in terms of sound quality, a little bit tinny at the top, but not horrendous, it's an okay sound, it's an average sound. It's the volume. It seems to have nothing until you get to sort of middle and up. The first half of the sound bar is almost non-existent, and that is disappointing for me, especially when they don't have the speaker on the top as well, which they could have done with the notch. They could have included possibly stereo speakers. When you combine that with the low volume of the speaker at the bottom, it's a bit disappointing. Next up, we have a negative, and probably one of the only negatives I think personally in terms of the build quality and the actual design, and that's the camera bump on the back. Now, I personally am one for keeping everything as sleek as possible, flat on the back, and I just feel when you've got a phone which is built as beautifully as this is, that's a real letdown for me. It sticks out, it could potentially be scratched. For the sake of 1mm maybe 2 of extra thickness to the phone, you can have a completely flat back. I just feel it would look more premium if it was completely flat. It also looks a little bit plasticky for me. It's not, but it looks a little bit plasticky compared to the rest of the build of the phone. And it looks like a camera module you'd see on a $200 phone as opposed to a $500-600 phone, or pounds converted, 450, 460 pounds. We'll get to price in a second as part of the conclusion. The next con of this phone is jumping back to the software, although on the whole, I really do like it. The addition in the software of the ability to hide the notch, to me, when you put that bar on, and this is really nitpicking now, but the corners don't match up at top to bottom. So the bottom, as you can see, are very rounded, whereas the top are a lot squarer and a lot more similar to the OnePlus 5T. And it kind of just weirdly, and maybe I didn't think I had OCD, maybe I do. But at the top, it just looks a little bit different. The symmetry just doesn't add up, and it's something that once you know it's there, it's hard to kind of not see it, and it's just a bit, yeah. And the reason why I think that might be there is because I feel the notch hiding feature was rushed, because we knew about 2 months before the release of this phone, they were happy just to go with the notch, and hopefully people just kind of dealt with it, learned to live with it, learn to love the notch. But there was a lot of backlash to that decision, and they then, in my opinion, rushed to get this hiding the notch feature in. And on the whole, like I said, it works fine, it works okay, but that part, I just feel that they should have rounded the corners more on that. Whether they could do that or not, I don't know, but it's certainly something that I can see when I look at it. Now, quickly, we do have a few final cons, which are kind of bittersweet. No SD card, of course, is a big deal breaker for a lot of people. OnePlus have said they don't want to include the ability to put an SD card in there, because you can buy lots of different SD cards, and some of them will work better than others. And if, of course, you do put one in that's of poor quality, it may have an effect on the actual phone's performance. That's why they say they do it. On the flip side, we do have plenty of storage options. 64, 128, and 256 gig are all different options you can order. They will range in price, obviously, but they certainly have kind of covered the situation there-ish. The next one is a big deal breaker for a lot of people. Again, no IP rating, no IP67, no IP68. They do say it is water resistant, or certainly splash resistant. So if you were to be outside in the rain, be in a shower room, drop it in limited water to some extent and take it out fairly quickly, it should be okay as long as you dry it off. And I can say I've tried it in the rain, I've tried it in the shower, and it's pretty much, I've not been, washing myself with my phone, but it's been in the room when I've been having a shower, and I've not had any problems. I haven't done a water resistance test fully, but I would go as far as saying it may potentially work better than they say, but they don't want to say in case there are any problems. They don't want to be liable for it. 2 more cons. One of them is, of course, something we've already touched on, the fact that it is only a 1080p screen and not Quad HD like you would see in the Google Pixel 2 XL and the Samsung S9 and phones like that. And yes, it would have been great to see that, but like I've already mentioned, it is a very, very good 1080p screen, and also the 1080p screen will help the battery life. If you're running a Quad HD screen, it is going to take up more battery juice. In this sense, you're going to last longer in the day without needing to charge. And finally, the fact that it is a glass back now means they could have put in wireless charging. Unfortunately, they didn't. Again, from OnePlus's point of view, they said that the fact that wireless charging still takes a lot longer than normal charging to charge the phone, they felt it was a detail that wasn't as essential as some people might suggest. And of course, the dash charge is such a great feature, kind of again makes me feel that the lack of wireless charging isn't such a bad thing. But again, you will have your own decisions. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Now let's get on to the conclusion. So their slogan is never settle, and this has always been one for me that I've found difficult to come to terms with in a way, because in my opinion you will always settle because nothing is ever perfect, and certainly with this phone it's almost as close to perfection in this price range as possible. But of course there are a few snags here and there where I feel the consumer would settle a little bit, but I feel with this phone you've got to put it into perspective. It's a perspective phone for me. So yes, it doesn't have an IP rating. Yes, it doesn't have wireless charging. Yes, it doesn't have a Quad HD display, etc., like we've mentioned, which other phones do have. The Google Pixel 2 XL, the iPhone 10, the Samsung S9, they all have most of those features that this doesn't, but they're $300 more expensive. And if you can afford that much, then yes, of course, I would recommend going and getting those phones. But if you want to save 300 bucks, 300 pounds, conversions again, 2,000 Indian rupees, 260 odd euros as well. If you want to save that money, then in my opinion, this is by far, at this moment in time, this may change come the 31st of May when the Xiaomi Mi 8 is released. But until that point, on the market, this is by far the best phone you can put your money to. It's pretty much the same performance as those top flagship phones, but you're getting it for a much discounted price. And if you can see past those cons, then this has to be the one. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think of the OnePlus 6? Now that it's been released, all the hype has finished, how do you feel the phone now stacks up after all of that? Is it still your favourite phone? Are you a massive OnePlus fan? Did it live up to your expectations? Are you not a OnePlus fan? Did you I'm too hot. Had you not heard of OnePlus before this phone, and has this opened your eyes to the OnePlus community? Have you bought this phone now? What do you think of it? Pros, cons, etc. Is it similar to what I've said today, or are there other things you've noticed that you like, don't like, etc.? As always, guys, if you are new to the channel and did enjoy this video and like tech videos in general, right across the board from smartphones to Android boxes, laptops, computers, tablets, all that sort of goodness. I also do a lot of software and app reviews as well. Then make sure you drop a subscribe on the channel and turn on the notifications as well by hitting that bell. And then every time I post a video, you will be notified. Follow my other social medias if you're interested in a lot of photos, etc. from smartphones such as the OnePlus 6 on Twitter and Instagram, ASB_YT. Like and share if you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Dislike the video if you didn't like it and didn't find it helpful. Now I think I'm going to go and jump in the Atlantic Ocean because I'm hotter than the sun. My brain is frying, literally melting. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. ASBYT, peace out.